questions do we want to see, do, go over, have questions about? I see a lot of 4s and then a 3 and a 1. Okay. For number 1, describe the slope as positive, negative, 0, or undefined, and then calculate it. This is going up and to the right or down and to the left, and that would be a double negative, so positive. And then if we count the slope, we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, to the right 2, which would simplify to just be 2. Make sure you write equals m. So you need both things in order to get that full point, positive and 2 equals m, or m equals 2. Number 3. Nick and his friends rented a canoe for 3 hours and paid $45. How much does it cost per hour to rent a canoe? So we would need some variable, call that x, or number of hours, cost of hours, cost each hour, there we go. And then we know he rented it for 3 hours. We don't know how much that costs per hour. And we know he paid $45. So if we were to solve this, divide both sides by 3. So that each hour it would cost $15. Make sure you define your variable, set up your equation, solve it, and get the answer for that full point. And then number 4. This also you could have put into Desmos once you figured out the equation, but this was a simple enough equation that you could have just solved it also. Number 4, write the equation passing through the point -4, -1 that's parallel to y equals 2x plus 4. So you could use the graph. You could also use Desmos. So I'll show you how to do it just on the graph first. If I have the point -4, -1, and this equation is going to be parallel to this one, so you have to remember that this means the same slope, which would be 2. So if I go up 2 to the right 1 as many times as possible on my graph, I would end up at some y-axis, or some y value, and I could write the equation, y equals 2x plus 4, 5, 6, 7. If you did it that way, just use graph. If you were doing this in Desmos, you would put in the ordered pair. Type in your y equals mx plus b. Add in all sliders. Change your m so that it's parallel to the original, which would be 2. And then move this b until it goes through this point. And then you could use that to write your equation, y equals 2x plus 7. you did it that way, use Desmos. Questions on any of those three? Take out your SOL packet if you don't already have it out. We're going to start at SOL A.4c and go all the way to 5d so that you have all those answers. You see how to do them on Desmos and all of that. If you don't have it with you, write this down on a piece of paper. You can start writing down the work for 4C. So 4C was your solving literal equations. There is a way to do this in Desmos, but these ones specifically, when I put them in Desmos, it didn't like the variables or something, so it wasn't doing the correct thing. So that would just be a check method anyway. But if you were solving this, I'll walk through what I did here. We're trying to get h by itself. So we got to get rid of the 1/2, multiply by the reciprocal on both sides, and then the parentheses drop, and we have an h in both of these. And what we want to do is get that out. So if we think about distributing, we multiply whatever's out front to everything. And we want to undo that so that we bring h out front. So if we do that, we put what's left inside parentheses and divide both sides by a minus b, so that h equals 2 capital A over a minus b. (19) is similar. We're solving for a, so we want to get a out of both of these terms, bring it out front, put what's left, divide both sides by 3 plus 5c, so that a equals q over 3 plus 5c. It has a bunch of things, what each variable represents, but we just need to know the formula. S equals HP plus 2B. And then in part A, we are solving for H, so subtract both sides by 2B and divide everything by P. And then in part B, we're solving for B, so subtract HP and divide everything by 2. And then I'll go down to this second. All of your systems questions you could put in Desmos, find where they cross. So the answer to 21 was x equals 7 or 7 equals x. (22) was no solution. Once you finish that, go on to the next page. (23) was C. 24, x equals 6. 25, x equals negative 6. And then I'll scroll down one second. (26) was negative 1. And then go go on to the next page. For SOL A.4c-5d, that was your systems word problems. So you had to set up a word problem, define your two variables. You were using Desmos, change all your variables to x. So 1.5x plus 3y equals 28.5, and x plus y equals 15. You could put those two into Desmos, find where they cross at 11.4, and then use that to answer your question. Figure out which one you're looking for, and the answer would be 4 bottles of juice. (28) and 29, you didn't need to solve. What they did on the right was take both sides, put them into Desmos separately to see where the two lines would cross, which would be at x equals 2. You could also just put the whole thing in to see that it would make a vertical line at x equals 2, but the answer for that one was x equals 2. You don't need the work, but you can write it if you want. Uh, 29 was x equals -2. And then you can go on to the next page. SOL 5A, the first question you couldn't do in Desmos because it's asking about properties. So you would need to know this. It's asking which ones are subtraction property of inequality, so which ones are showing that you're subtracting to the other side, and that would be these 3. Number 2 is showing that an inequality was solved and is asking which 2 steps was an error made and explain what the error was. Between step 1 and step 2, when they distributed, they didn't multiply the -3 to 2, so that would have made that -6. In SOL A.5b, you needed to solve this. If you're putting this in Desmos, you have to use an X instead of a Y, otherwise it won't graph it. There is the way to solve it, but if you put it in Desmos, it would solve it for you. Y is less than or equal to -6. And then it asks to solve and graph on a number line, so that would be a closed circle going to the left. Once you have that finished, go on to the next page. For number 4, you had to graph the inequality. If you put this directly into Desmos, you wouldn't have this inequality off to the side, but it would show you that it's a dashed line shaded below with a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 5. But if you solved it, you would also get that. All of SOL 5C and 5D can be done in Desmos. So number 5 was B. And I'll show you the rest in just a second. 6 was C, and 7 you had to graph the system of inequalities, so the overlapping would be this yellow area. If you put them both into Desmos, you wouldn't need to solve it, but if you didn't, you would need to solve it. And then this graph helped you answer part A and part B. Part A doesn't have to be mine, it can be. You just have to name 2 points that would fall in that shaded area. Any 2 points would work. And then in part B, you have to select all of the points that would also be in the solution set, which were just 2 of them, -4, 2, and -4, 4. Once you have all of that, go ahead to the next page. Number 8, 9, and 10 were basically the same thing. Which ordered pairs were solutions? If you put this into Desmos, you would be able to see which one falls in the overlapping. So for 8, it was 1, 1, 3, -1, 4, 3, and 6, 0. Don't feel like you have to write all the other things. That was just some checking stuff. 9 was -1, -6, 0, -5, and 0.5, -2. And number 10 was B. So then the next ones that will be due will be the week we come back from spring break. This is not a spring break homework assignment because you could get it done this week, but it is still due the first time I see you when we get back. SOL A.4c-5d and 6b. And 6A and 6B will be the last informative SOL practice grades. The last 2 things that I give you will be formative, so keep that in mind. I'm going to show some of these on Desmos, and then we'll get into our flex day. So all of your systems questions, put those in, look at where they cross, and that would be your answer if you're looking for something specific. This one I think was a multiple choice. So if you were to look at 2 at a time, you could see where they cross. And I think this one was looking for which one doesn't have a solution, which was that one. That was the word problem. So if you put those in, find where they cross, you can look for it, whatever you're looking for. Actually, it was that one, but doesn't matter. The solution, the equations, you can put that all in at the same time to figure out that answer. Look at the x-axis, and that'll tell you what that answer is. And your inequalities, you can put in there, and it will graph it for you. Make sure it's x, not y. And then your linear inequalities, you can graph. For your systems of inequalities, put those in, put the points in, look at does the point fall in the overlapping shaded area, and that will tell you if it is or is not a solution. Even if you have a bunch of points, if it falls on the line and it's solid, that would be a point. If it fell on the line in the overlapping but was dashed, it would not be. and I think all the other ones are the same. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of that, some of you still need to finish your Unit 8 tests. I'm going to move you to these tables. I need to figure out how many that is. And then everyone else that has already finished the Unit 8 test will be everywhere else. So if you know you need to finish your tests, come sit over in these tables. Wait, before you move. Everyone that doesn't need to finish the test is going to look at their tests, see if they want to retake. If you want to retake, or if you have other stuff you need to retake, you'll be working on that. If you don't want to retake, or you finish your tests, you could be working on the following: your SOL 4c-5d, your Delta Math from before, your JLabs. Any of those you could be working on if you're not doing retake work, or if you finished all of those, there are additional practice stuff on the back shelf. Now you may move.